Right, I think we're live. So, welcome to Green Room. If you're viewing this is Friday afternoon with my very special friend Harold Green. So, Green Room, just to give an overview, if you're not familiar all the way, whether you're viewing for the first time or viewing for many times, we're getting conversations of Black and Brown geniuses, Black and Brown folks who have exhibited brilliance and just getting them together to talk about their stories, to talk about how they came to where they're at right now, where they're excited to get to in the future. And I'll let our special guest introduce himself. Harold, just give us a little bit about, you know, who you are, what you do, what you're interested in and inspired by these days, and we'll start to just get into unpeeling a little bit of your story, just so the community of folks is like 750 people, and they're aspiring. That's the word that I like to describe. They're young folks, they're middle aged, they're older folks who are curious and interested in lots of different things. So, trying to expose them to as much as possible when it comes to folks who are good at their craft, passionate about their areas, and so excited to get into what you're curious and what you're passionate and what you're great at in this next 50 minutes to 55. So, yeah, I'll shut up, let you give a quick intro, and we'll get into it.
Um, my name is Harold Green. First of all, I'm honored to be here. Honored to have got the invite, and it's even ironic and kind of hilarious because my first album was actually called Green Room. Uh,
Mm.
so it was just kind of cool to even see the title of this particular series. So um, glad to be here. I like to call myself an artist. I think it's easier for people to kind of digest when you say spoken word artist, I guess, because it makes it easier. I don't know, people need, boxes and things like that. But I've just done a lot of things and do a lot of things in my career. So I like to say artist because with whatever I do, I use words for the most part to kind of create realities and create scenery and create an aesthetic. And I think I use that or do that in various ways, but the main medium is spoken word. But that's neither here nor there. I've been doing what I do for 16 years now, coming up on 17 or so. And it's been a marvelous ride, man. It's been exciting. Every day is something. I've been at it nonstop for that long. I haven't taken any breaks. I haven't, reset or recalibrated. It's been, you know, the main goal with no blinders on, or with the blinders on, I'm sorry, for a very long time. So, yeah.
That's fresh. So, obviously, we grew up in the same neighborhood, south suburbs of Chicago, and um, I'd love to have you explain like how you came to like be passionate about this. I know my own story is like I fell in love with music just in general, and then like hip hop music, and then started to write, and then in college started to do a little bit. But like, what's your story of how you kind of came to um, love what you do, and then wanted to be a participant in like an actual creator of this art as opposed to just a consumer of it too?
I think it happened pretty early on for me. I grew up on the south side of Chicago and then moved out to the south suburbs. And I think that's important. That's an important part of my story because it was two different perspectives, And growing up on the south side of Chicago, respectfully, the Inglewood area, uh, I was privy to a lot of things. I saw a lot of things, saw a lot of, whatever. But I also had what I call a love bubble. Like I could pull up every day, and it's not even an exaggeration. Just about every day we pull up, and it's like a fight happening in front of the house, or some kind of argument, some nonsense. We had gangs running through the gangway, and people looking for pistols, all kind of just crazy stuff. But it's like once we lived in a duplex, a two flat, and me, my mother, my father, and my sister stayed on the first floor, and my grandmother and a rotation of cousins stayed upstairs, and every time I come in the house, I was just engulfed in love, and I felt protected, I felt embraced, I felt cared for. It didn't feel like the chaos that may happen sometimes, in the real world. And I remember moving out to Richmond Park and how different that felt, and just like we lived in a cul-de-sac, and we could leave our door unlocked, and what I'm saying, like, whereas where I came from, we, the police was there ever so often because the door was getting kicked in and different little stuff, so it's just these vast contrasts, but I still felt that love bubble. It just was such a different space to be in, and I began my love for the I guess the written form, like with I think hip hop was my intro. No, because my dad used to play a lot of like Sly and the Family Stone and Stevie and Luther Vandross, a lot of like soul music, and I just remember him being so passionate singing it and being into it, and I felt like Stevie's verse on the song "Ass" was my first intro to rap. Like, because his cadence on there is just so your mother, your grandfather, da, 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 da. And it was just like the way my dad would get it. He would rewind until he did it perfectly. And I was just like,
Yeah.
man, it's so what I'm saying, it's so dope. This is like I haven't heard anything like this before. And even the way Stevie's voice changes on that particular verse. And then my uncle, he had a I remember he had a silver trailblazer, and he was the first person I knew with sounds, and
Mhm.
he would pick me up, and he listened to a lot of Bone Thugs, he listened to a lot of Tupac, a lot of the folk from the 90s, and I just remember that feeling that hip hop gave. It was different
Yeah.
than what the funk and soul music gave me, and it felt like a different language too.
Yeah.
Like funk and soul was black, but it also felt American, and something about hip hop felt so distinctly hood,
Mhm.
so distinctly urban and so distinctly youthful, that I just felt like it was a language all of my own, and I started writing raps early on, like probably like sixth grade. And then like my mama, she found my notebook and threw it away or did something. And I was pissed off. I was heated. I thought I called her at work
Yeah.
hot. I'm about to leave. This is you crazy. You did what? She's so calm.
Yeah.
Okay, girl. All right. Yeah, just we'll talk about it later. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was just like those early memories, and then from there, like I became a part of a rap group. It was so funny because it was like me and like my sister and my two best friends and like my three best friends, and we would had these writing sessions, and it really started from Outkast Equiminize album,
Mhm.
and like the beat ran out on one of them joints real long, and we just looped it and like recorded and looped it on one of the old school joints, and like I just remember writing raps to that and being so frustrated because we didn't loop it perfectly. So like when it would come back in, it didn't come back on the one. It was like cutting off and like coming. It was just so very weird, And those memories were just so like fond and fun, and I probably took it more serious. I was probably writing more than everybody in the group, but like anytime we had a song assignment or what, I'm just cranking it out, And I knew then that I was very good at writing. And like my dad, he used to write poems for my sister and I when we were younger, and like would call us like prince and princess in the poems. And I remember that fondly. I remember how that made me feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I just knew, like being in that rap group early on, like, oh, okay, I take writing. I'm very good, and it comes very naturally to me, you know. But I don't think I necessarily. I mean, I took it seriously, but I don't know if I was like, yo, I'm finna, just go ahead and sign a, Def Jam real quick. It was just like, I'm in this and I'm passionate, but
Mm-hmm.
sports was more important to me. You know what I'm saying? And I remember moving out to the south suburbs. It felt like I was going to have more of an opportunity um, for sports. You know what I'm saying? Like it felt like, because being in the city, it was what it was, but it felt like a bigger world and more connections and more opportunities were going to come from being out in the south suburbs. And then I remember my senior year of high school, I wrote poems for my mother, my father, my sister for Christmas as gifts,
Mm-hmm.
mainly because I didn't have no money. I was working at Finish Line at the time, and I was spending all my money right back at the store I was working at.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up giving it to them, and the way in which it touched them, I was like, oh, okay. See, this is different. Like the rapping I'm good at, but this right here is a selfless act that makes other people feel a certain way. Um, and my mom was crying, my sister was touched, my dad was super proud, and my sister like, Harold, you need to go on here, you need to keep doing this. This is like you got something here. And she kept pushing me, and I ended up like joining like a we were going to a church at that time, and we're not like church people, but that particular church was like really like it was mind blowing. Like the pastor, he was just brilliant and stuff like that, and they had a spoken word ministry, and she was like, "You need to join that," and I did, and it ended up, we really did a lot, and I took what I was doing seriously, um, and ended up going to college and doing all these open mics. I'm doing all these open mics in Chicago, which is a very hard place to do open mics because everybody's great. So you better
Yeah.
you better be showing out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just how Chicago is. Period. Like
And the
everybody's
audience,
so great at so many things.
yeah, the
It's like
audience ain't shy about telling you
they
you
not
trash
shy
too.
about letting you know you trash, bro. Like even if you stellar, they
Yep.
will say that was decent. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? And it's like you just kind of got to deal with that.
Yep.
But it's like I was wowing Chicago crowds at a very young age, and that let me know, like, oh man, this is something you need to, and that felt empowering. But then when I got to school, I knew like this was going to be a thing because I went to Grambling State University, and that's a HBCU, and we had representatives from all across the nation, all 50 states,
Yeah.
and the way in which my peers reacted to me, I was like, oh, okay, Harold. And from there, Grambling, I'm doing all these open mics, I'm creating events, I'm creating shows, I created an arts collective, all this great stuff, and then they started to allow me to have a date on the homecoming and spring fest calendar, which is like a huge deal. You know what I'm saying? And I look up, and we didn't pack a whole 2,000 seat auditorium. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, oh, okay. And now at that moment, that's when I said I'm leaving. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, okay, this is what I'm meant to do. I can't even focus in school no more. Like, and to that point, I was like president scholar, the dean's list, all of that good stuff. But I couldn't even lock in no more because all I could think about is this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I gotta, because it's one thing to be big and grambling, you know what I'm saying, but it's like I'm so competitive and so driven and passionate. It's like some people take that type of stuff and be like, well, I'm gonna get my degree, I'm gonna stick around here because I'm the man here, you know what I'm saying. I'm just like, nah, I gotta take this back to the crib. I have to take over like I took over there, and if I could do that in Chicago, then I'm good. I'm world then. You know what I'm saying? So
So you said a whole lot. So let's
yeah, I'm
so,
sorry.
no, no, like I want people to understand. kind of the tension between like what you were studying at the time? So like, what did you actually come to college and like, declare yourself uh, headed towards as a major?
I think that's a funny story in and of itself because I actually went to school for mathematics secondary education,
Okay.
which is interesting because I'm a writer. You know, it's like, what are you doing? But I'm also really good at math, and I was really into that, and I wanted to teach math and all of that until I realized that I had to take science courses too, and I was like, oh no, I'm good. That's
Yeah.
okay. I was like, I'm naturally good at writing, so let me go ahead and switch this over to English secondary education. So English secondary education became my primary with like a pseudo sociology minor. I became like a TA for like the sociology department, stuff like that, whatever. But my major was English secondary education.
And the idea was to take that skill to teach it to like
Yeah,
high school.
yeah. Like if things didn't work out, I would have a teaching degree and I could, whatever. And I end up leaving like my junior year and worked in CPS, which is the Chicago Public School System, for like 11 years.
Mm,
Um, and I eventually actually got my Bachelor of Arts in Creative Writing
mm,
um, from DePaul. And then I went back and got my Master's of Humanities with a concentration in Creative Writing from Tiffin University.
got it.
Which was a funny story in and of itself because that wasn't even about, at that point, that wasn't about career stuff or nothing like that because I had already, had a budding career, yada, yada, yada. That was about my kids. Um, I had realized like over the years, like the past couple summers before I got it, I was I was reading applications for a University of Chicago summer program for high schoolers, for like elite high schoolers or scholars or whatever, and I realized that all of the kids whose applications read that they had parents with professional degrees or higher.
Mhm.
I read those applications different. I had a different expectation. Like I expected those kids to have a different vernacular, have a different perspective, have a higher comprehension of life and the ability to be communicative. You know what I'm saying? And I realized in that moment, like, you know what? I want my kids to have higher expectations from the world as well. So whenever they fill out applications and they put on there, my parent has this degree or whatever, I want them to understand that that means the world is going to expect more from you. And when you
Mm.
have expectations, a lot of times, most of the times, unless we're talking in, varied situations, you rise to that occasion depending on how you build, you know what I'm saying? And I want to build them in a way that when you have expectations before you rise to that challenge.
That's dope. I think as I look out into like the Black community, both in this nation and then more broadly as I met people, I think that lack of a standard or like a banner or like an
Yeah.
expectation, let you call it, is something that is important to set. Because even if that's saying about shoot for the moon, land in the stars, at least
Right,
you set a high goal and you're gonna land
right.
somewhere. But if you're not aiming at anywhere, then it's not a big surprise or a big secret. Nobody's um, it's funny that nobody's really surprised at all if you're not gonna hit the mark or if you're not gonna make anything of yourself. And
Right.
that's super important as we, fathers on the call talking about what that means
Absolutely.
for the next generation. So
Absolutely.
for the people that are watching this, I want you to take that away, put that in your back pocket.
Tuck it in. Tuck it in.
Another question I had, because I know for myself, um, the difference between writing and
Mm-hmm.
actually communicating what you wrote and like being able to captivate and like hit the heart of an audience are two different things, right? So
Absolutely.
I had to put a whole lot of work into my delivery and like I want you to talk a little bit about just the difference between, you put a whole lot of work into your craft of writing, but then you probably also had to develop on the other side in order for that to land and be felt the way that you want it. Talk about how you over the years have kind of put work into both sides.
Yeah, so I think that also kind of goes back to the growing up in Inglewood thing. So like I noticed when I started getting into spoken word, uh, as a lot of people that I know, it was HBO's Deaf Poetry Jam.
Mhm.
So HBO's Deaf Poetry Jam was a big deal to me. I was like, whoa, this is crazy because I loved Mos Def, and
Yeah.
like to see him hosting something was like, oh, this is cool. And then to see what that something was, and then to see and hear the different vernaculars that were used, and how raw it was. It didn't, because prior to that, poetry was very academic to me. Like it was just very Robert Frost and others. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool. And so to me, it was the Dead Poet Society. It was just a lot of old white men who people idolized, and I was just kind of like, okay. But then I started seeing like Black Ice and Amir Suleiman and people like that on that Poetry Jam, and the way in which they spoke was a language I knew. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And it just felt, it was so different than the birds are flying and the sky is blue. You know what I'm saying? It was just such a different vibe, and it excited me. And then coming where I came from, it was like if you didn't have a certain presence, if you didn't speak in a certain way, you weren't going to get respected. You know what I'm saying? People weren't going to listen. And I got that from Inglewood. I understood that very early in life, and I took I took that particular concept and just applied it to my performance. You know what I'm saying? Like I knew that there was a whole demographic of people who did not care about poetry because it was not performed or relayed in a certain way. I knew slam poetry was a big deal, and different things, but I knew that if you didn't talk a certain way, it was a certain group of people that was going to close their ears.
Mhm.
And over my career, I've had the honor to be able to touch people who prior to that would have never cared about a poem. You know what I'm saying? And I knew early on I had to have a certain voice, a certain style, a certain presence that touched those people, because those are the people that I wanted to talk to. You know what I'm saying? Like those are people that I wanted to feel what I was saying, because we have the same experiences. You know what I'm saying? And if others, and when others came along and come along on this journey, great, respect it. If you haven't been there before, or whatever, or if you can't relate, but I wanted them to feel me. I wanted my people to feel me. I wanted folk that came from the type of areas that I came from to feel me. And that was a huge part. And I've always kind of had that. I've always had this same mentality. So even when I first started, like even I could look and listen back to pieces from when I first started, and it has that same, like now I'm much more conscious and aware of um, tone and changing up just the feel. Like back then, every piece I had to be, I was just pit bull every single, you know what I'm saying? And it was like, it was great and people felt it and it was understood, but it was like, now I have so many different gears. But the passion was always there. And I used to do this like repeat thing all the time on like lines that I thought was like cold. I had like a, nice little wordplay in there and stuff. But like, I was very aware of presence and performance and delivery very early on, like from like the first piece.
Yeah. That's something that, I mean, that's bars for where you're at in terms of the industry and what you do, but in terms of just like communication, which is the thing that I think our country and our world needs a lot more
Absolutely.
development in, being able to have a discourse with each other, whether you agree or not. And
Yeah.
like some of the things that go into what you're talking about are just good in general, so that
Right.
more productive uh, communication between adults and children, across the
Mhm.
generations and everything. So
Yeah.
another kind of gem that I want people to take away is to use those things that Harold is talking about just in your daily life, because it
Yeah,
all
I think it's super important to like be conscious of how you talk, you know what I'm saying, and how you listen, you know, because I think that's another part of being a good performer or being a good communicator is the listening part too. Like all throughout my career, I've paid attention to the audience. You know what I'm saying? Like I've paid attention to how they react to things, what they say afterwards, what they hold on to, how how they how the energy shifts in certain portions. Like it's all about listening and tuning in and reading a room. You know what I'm saying? I think great orators are able to read the room and move with the room and not be so tight or so strict to what they thought they were going to do. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a part of bad communication when you're not malleable, when you're so rigid and you believe that what you have prepared to say or what you're about to say has to stay on that particular that straight and arrow. Like, and if another point comes in or another thing is said, you can't hear it. You can't adjust to it. You know what I'm saying? And that's bad communication. Like you got to adjust, you got to hear, you got to receive, you got to be able to move, you know? So I agree. I think that's these are all points that, you know, communication wise that we can all, you know, take hold and tuck in.
Yeah, that's a great. I mean, as you're speaking, it makes me think of this book. Um, the author's name is Chris Emden, and I'm gonna butcher the title, but it's essentially for white folks who teach in the hood. And he
Yeah,
talks
yeah,
about
yeah, yeah, yeah.
in the book where like um, he likens, you know, you having to be successful in the classroom if you're a white person. Um, if you're a white person who has to communicate with the audience that's different than like how you came up or what you're used to. He took the black church, for example. If you're a minister in the black church, there's the call and response.
Oh yeah.
Uh, like the passing of control throughout a sermon from yourself giving the message to an audience, but then also, you know, the musicians that kind of set the tone for things in the background. There's so many different levers, and that ability to improvise that you're talking about and be flexible to
Yes.
allow everybody in the room to get something out of the experience is something that he thought uh, was just understated and underappreciated, and that many people needed to hear, which is why he wrote the book in the first place.
It's about rhythm, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, and this is no knock on anybody, but black folk just got so much rhythm. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you could hear it. And when I say rhythm, I'm even talking about conversational rhythm. Like you can hear it in so many different spaces, in the barber shop, in the salon, in the locker room or the gym, on the corner. It's just a certain rhythm that happens in the black vernacular that I think so many people can take notes from. You know what I'm saying? And even when you take it from its lowest example, or you know, lowest example to its some of its highest positions, like Martin has such great rhythm. That's why he's one of the greatest orators. When you listen to him, even when you think about the fact that I Have a Dream was majority off the cuff, that's crazy. But it's
Yeah,
because his rhythm was so in place. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
It didn't make a difference if he was in Ebenezer Church or on at the Washington Mall. It was the same rhythm. He could bounce off of a crowd. He could that give and take was there. It was like, where they going? Where do I want to take them? Where are they headed right now? And how can I gather them? And he had that down pat. But he learned that from the barber shops, from the corners, from the candy store. You know what I'm saying? It's a certain rhythm that happens in ingrained in black folk lives, that communication just becomes, man, how you doing? I'm trying to get like you, brother. Oh, that's crazy. You know, it's a certain ping pong, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you take that on a high level and it becomes masterful.
Yep. That's something that we probably take for granted too, just because you
Absolutely.
come up in it and then you get all of this appreciation or raised eyebrows when you like coming from like the Midwest where I grew up with predominantly white, black, and Mexican people. And then to come to California now where there's like all different cultures. And
Right.
so like the way that I'm thinking is just regular, right?
Right,
And when people
right.
are like stopping in the street to like watch or to listen, or they're
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm the same way with other cultures in that, you know, I wasn't exposed to this coming up. So I'm going to stop and try to learn something and appreciate it also. So that's like been a weird, but really cool thing as I've moved, you know, locations geographically to be able to notice that. But I mean, you see whole industries that take advantage
Oh
uh,
yeah.
and appropriate negatively and then sometimes do it justice. But um, yeah, the power of that is for sure noted.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of the intent and kind of the goal of what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
um, because all good art, I think there's room for like expressing like one's individuality, but then it's also sometimes rooted in the want for change or you're trying to accomplish something with it. So just
Mm-hmm.
tell the community the things that you're trying to change or to get people to think about or to challenge with what you're doing day by day.
I think the biggest thing that I'm trying, I think almost the answer to every single one of those questions is love for me.
Mm,
Um, and I mean that in the broadest of sense. Like if we had more love in all of the things that we do, um, whether it be whether it be in relationships or whether it be in positions of power or whether it be in just daily interactions, or whether it be culturally, whatever it may be, if we had more love in those things, it would be so much easier to coexist. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm doing a piece about Black women and I am lifting them on high and praising them and all that great stuff, that means that I exist in a space where the love that I have in me allows me to see the greatness in others, right? Because I think what ends up happening when we don't have that capacity, when we don't know that capacity or we don't broaden that capacity for love, it shrinks our ability to see love or greatness in other people, right? So if we have a small capacity for love within ourselves, then we don't see how great or wonderful or how productive or how offering other cultures could be, or how great or productive or offering other genders can be, or how great productive or offering that other countries can be. You know what I'm saying? It is a warped perception. And I think what I'm trying to do continuously is use my platform and use my medium to show the power of love. The more love that I have, the more I work on broadening my love bandwidth, the more power I have, and the more I speak with clarity. And you could take that as an example. You know what I'm saying? You see someone who speaks with such clarity, such vision, such passion, and then you wonder how do they do it? And then if their answer is love, then all of a sudden you think, well, I need a little bit more of that in my life too, then. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's always my mission, to show the power that love has.
yeah, that makes total sense to me, and I don't think you could run into anybody that would challenge that answer or be like, "Nah, we got enough of that."
Right.
Especially in the world we're in right now. Um,
Right.
I was thinking to
Right.
myself yesterday, like, no matter like how our election goes, there's gonna be like a good swath of people that are upset, and there's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
a good swath of people that are really, really happy. And no matter
Mm-hmm.
which way kind of the chips fall,
Yeah, yeah,
your point about love, like we have to do a better job in figuring out how to connect and to reach across and to find common ground, to be respectful. And I mean, there's so much of a gap right now that
yeah.
I'm, I'm scratching my head. But I mean,
And,
that's
and you know, I think what's crazy, even to your point of like, because I'm glad that you even brought the election into it, because it made me think about, because I know a lot of people, especially cynics and conspiracy theorists and different groups of individuals, I know they love to nitpick at Obama, like even when you're Black, like people that are really into politics and really into like just the rabbit holes, and it's like, yeah, but just like any other president, he's a war criminal, and he's this and that. He ain't nothing but a puppet. But one of the beautiful things when you think about him is just like you said about this particular election, you didn't feel that when he was running, right? You didn't feel some great anxiety that no matter what happens here, there's going to be this pool. Only thing that made you feel that way was about racial stuff. And it had nothing to do with him though. You know what I'm saying? He realized the power of love and the power of understanding and accepting of other people and their differences, their powers, their abilities, and how that can make this place a better place. And I think what happens here with this particular individual who's been in office, how dividing and divisive and hateful a lot of the language has been, which goes back to how powerful language is and communicating is. When you make people or you empower people on the other end, if we're talking about the whole love piece, when you empower people on the other end of that to feel negatively about people or to embrace or widen the hate that they have, it then shows how much power hate has, you know, and it has the power to, whereas love can bring us together and create this harmonious, you know, gathering, hate has the ability to rip us apart in such ugly and palatable ways, you know?
Yeah. So we praying, we hoping
Absolutely.
that we find a way.
Yeah, but, and I say that not to be in any kind of way pessimistic. I say that to say that there's so much power to kind of illustrate a little bit more how much power there is in love. I think that Obama led with love and it showed, you know what I'm saying? Like there was not these deep angst, these deep feelings of angst during that time. It was like, even if you didn't get with him or whatever it may be, you didn't feel like you had somebody in there that had your worst interests at heart. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he wasn't disrespectful, like blatantly. Like he could have agree to disagree with you and still, you know, pat you on the back, shake your hand after it was all over. So
yeah, because he had rhythm.
Let's talk a little bit about like just the industry, or like the managing of the business. Like I'm sure like requests come your way a bunch. COVID has come, so like being able to pivot and do stuff a little bit more remotely, whereas you might have been used to being out on the road. Like how have you kind of managed throughout 2020 as an artist and as somebody who does what you do?
You know, it's been interesting, man, because like when we talked on the phone, I told you I had all these grand plans and had all this stuff going on, all this planning that I was doing. And when you have a situation like this one that snatches the rug from under you with no preparation, or no, you know, advance notice, I think everybody deals differently. And it was a weird, like that first month, I was just like, I really kind of just leaned into my family.
Yep.
And just like, you know, I was, you know, just my sons have bunk beds. We was like having sleepovers every night and, you know, playing the game and just hanging out and just really kind of just pouring a lot of love. Because I think moments like that, you also realize nothing is like promised. You don't know what, everything can switch up just off of instant, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And if it's one thing that I wanted them to remember is that love is constant, you know what I'm saying? Like as long as we got each other, we're good. But it was weird because you just don't know, because I spend so much of my career and so much of my impact comes from feeling me in person. You know what I'm saying? Like you can see, you know, videos and you can hear, you know, albums, or you can hear recordings, or you can see me on, you know, whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. But it's like when you experience me in person, it's a whole nother feeling. And I remember just like, just kind of being like, just feeling heavy, because then it felt like now so much of this is going to rely on these social media numbers. So much is going to rely on these algorithms and these views and yeah, and that's stuff that I don't like to get, all wrapped up in it and feel like that's the end all tell all of my career, because I know it's not. But when you're living in a virtual world, you know what I'm saying, which is what this had forced us to kind of do, that stuff becomes way more prominent. You know what I'm saying? And it's like those who have the numbers get the most looks and get the most opportunities and yada yada yada. And it's like, man, please don't let this turn into that, because I am so cold, and like I don't want you to forget that because of some arbitrary, follower count or something like that. And I think that's where it kind of got a little, sketchy. But then I just dug into what I always dig into, like just being selfless and, just getting back to the work, man. Cause like prior to, I was working on this project called Black Roses, which is like a series of odes to Black women who are making history right now and who have inspired me and just doing some wonderful things. And then following that series, I was going to follow that up with this series called Black Oak. And I was going to start that in like the, I don't know, like around May or something, closer to Father's Day or whatever, to celebrate Black men who have been doing, amazing things and planting the seeds and growing the trees. And it just got thrown off. You know what I'm saying? Like production got cut off because, of COVID and stuff like that. And I had to pivot, like, because prior to that, I was working with my, videographer friends, and we were, making a thing of it. And, it was all the success, like Rhapsody has seen hers, and Ava DuVernay and Allison Felix and all these wonderful people. And I was just like, oh man, I gotta, whatever. But then I was able to pivot. I started shooting them myself, you know what I'm saying? And I was able to have my boys with me, and I finished out the Black Oak series, and then I'm in the midst of finishing out the Black Rose series, and people are still seeing them, and people are still, it's gained a lot of traction and a lot of attention and engagement and stuff like that. And it just reminded me that, like, you just gotta figure it out. You know what I'm saying? And you take your little moment, you know what I'm saying? And get your mind together. You ain't gotta force nothing, but when it's right, make your pivot, make your move, do your thing, and whatever's to come will come.
Yeah, I like how selfless that message is. Like, you weren't reaching or trying to do something that would puff out your chest or lift something
Right.
that you've done up, but that
Yeah.
like the initial um, inspiration for it was to see the greatness in somebody else. And
Yeah.
that's something that I really applaud, and something that I think you really have to sit with yourself and like check your motives in a society like the one we live in, where everything is like internally focused. So
Yeah.
I just want to say salute for like being big enough, being mature enough to be able to call out the great work that other people are doing, and to beat the drum for another person. That
Yeah.
shows a lot of maturity and a lot of kind of inner strength and leadership too. Like that's something that you would want other people to emulate, whether they be your own kids in your family or your broader community or people that you work with. So yeah, I've been checking those out, man. I see the Dwayne Wade one's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it was crazy that, like, that Sunday that he put that up. Um, he put his up. Then Tracy Ellis Ross saw his, put his in her story, and I sent her a message because I had did one of her for the Black Roses, and I was like, man, I don't know if you saw this, but I would love for you to. She immediately saw it, immediately hit me back, and then put it up. Man, I was cooking at the time. I had to take a cry break, man. I ran around that corner. I shed some tears because it's so crazy, like doing something for so long and just hoping that people care. And then, being in a position where something happens and you're scared that now, because you didn't reach enough or, felt like you reached enough, you could be forgotten about. And then to realize that you're not forgotten, like people still care, and it was just a lot in that moment. It was a beautiful moment. And, it's just, it even makes me think about, like, because I think this particular time has made us kind of re-examine how we look at celebrity too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think in this time, there's been a lot of celebrities who have kind of made a fool of themselves in certain situations, or made people realize they are far more self-centered than they realized before, because I think, in these situations, so many people are struggling and hurting and all of that. And when you have a life of privilege and you don't realize that this moment is bigger than you, and you're whining and complaining when you have so much more than others do, it makes you look a little out of touch. And I think what this project does, in my opinion, it helps us reassess how we celebrate celebrity. So I'm not celebrating fame or money. I'm celebrating the human, right? So what did you decide to do when you got a platform? When you got to a point where more eyes were on you than a normal person, and all of these people I've listed and all of these people that I've talked about did something as a human
Yeah.
that was exceptional.
Yeah.
And that's the part that we need to start keying in on, because if we start talking about that more and more than like the fame and the money, then we have more people who are on the aspiring or want to be cusp, who start looking at, oh, that's what you get attention for when you're famous. Well, let me be a great person then, because I want to have that attention on me as well,
Yeah.
And I think we give people a pass too much on just having money and fame. That's not enough. What did you do with that?
Yep. Yeah, they say to whom much is given, much is also required. So like, you fell into all of that. How's it feel to be the only, one from
Right.
your who made it out?
Right.
And then what did Jay say? Like we kind of measure success by everybody in your circle succeeding,
Yeah.
and the one person.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
I totally feel that. And as you were talking, I also thought about, I've been on this app called Clubhouse over the last couple of weeks, and there was like a Michael Jordan versus LeBron, like who's the GOAT after game one. There's so many people who hopped on there talking about, different era, different time, different everything. LeBron straight out of high school, he did college and everything. But somebody brought up the point about this humanness that you're talking about, and how LeBron has stayed with his wife and family, how he's put over 1,000 kids through school, and just like with social media being exploding during that time, like how much integrity he's had to show in order not to fall off over the time.
Yeah, man.
I'm from Chicago, I'm from Illinois, and I was ready to say, Mike,
Right,
it's
right,
not even
right.
yeah, all of this like data started coming to me, and I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that brother has been doing a good job. So let me
Hey,
like,
man, listen. It's so crazy. I was one year, my family and I, we were at Cedar Point, and we saw all these James Foundation shirts, like just a large, like a sea of people with all these James Foundation shirts. We was like, what is? And so my wife asked one of the like moms or whatever, like, man, what is going, what's this? They was like, yeah, LeBron bust all of us here. That's the part of his foundation. And this was before the I Promise School. And they like, yeah, so he has this partnership with whichever bank, and basically with his foundation, with the kids who had C's and below, if they get the average up to D's and F's, and if they just get their average up to a C or better, then their all 4 years are going to be paid off. So we took this trip with all of those kids who had those D and F's, average, and he was making the announcement here, and that's what this is. Bro, first of all, the amount of people that was there was insane. Second of all, we went to Famous Dave's that night, and they were like, oh yeah, LeBron and his family was in here eating earlier. What? So it was just insane to me, because all of this was so human of him, right? Like, because a lot of people have these things where when they create scholarships or they create foundation or they create these moments or these opportunities, it goes to the scholars, right? It goes to the ones who have been doing, you know what I'm saying? And to focus in so intently on the ones who the system may have failed or the system does not necessarily work out for, and to give them inspiration like that and say, not only am I going to give you this opportunity, but I'm also going to give you a fun event fully paid for. I'm gonna take care of everything, and we're gonna make this announcement. We're gonna do it here at this amusement park and yada yada yada. At that moment, I started looking at his philanthropy so differently. You know what I'm saying? And then after that, he do the I Promise School, and he do the Spring Hill Entertainment. It was just so many things after that that just like I was like, this is insane, man. You know.
Yeah.
So I have such a high regard for him on and off the court, like crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I just literally like everything that rose up into me to say, Mike.
Yeah.
Down.
You had to suppress it.
Yeah. Maybe I see we got about 8 more minutes left. Maybe we do like a lightning round to continue to unfold like who is Harold Green. I'll do this lightning round and kick it off with like favorite food. I heard you talking about cooking a couple minutes ago. So what's your favorite 1 or 2 foods that you're that you're in your happy place when you're eating or cooking?
You said what's the favorite food to cook?
To either cook or eat. Like what's 1 or 2 top favorite dishes?
Man, I'm gonna be so terrible at this because I'm one of them people that don't have favorites. I'm one of them irritating people. Like I'm just always open to new things. So I just, but I think I don't know. Because over the quarantine, I learned how to cook. Like before I could I'd throw something. I was good at breakfast, I guess. I was okay. But like now I actually know how to cook.
Yeah.
And so I just been cooking some of everything. I've been I cook for the family like 3 meals a day, and I'll be baking and doing all this stuff. So I think one of the funnest things has been experimenting and finding out like new things that I'm good at, and finding new opportunities to kind of show my creativity in a different way, and I think that was a part of it too, because I think a lot of what I do is to make people feel comfortable and make people feel warm and loved and cared for with my art. And I think I was able to transfer some of that energy into the kitchen, you know what I'm saying? Which has been a beautiful thing to kind of witness and experience.
Amen to that. I know my waistline during COVID is like, but I mean, you're right. It's a ministry. Like sometimes
Yeah.
sit down and have a meal and not say anything, but the food.
Yeah.
You could just
the
taste
food let you know how loved you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's move to, let's see. How about superpowers? And like, if you were a superhero, you could be invisible, you could be fast, you could be smart. Like, what would you choose?
I think I would teleport. I think about this a lot. For whatever reason, I think I would teleport, man. Because it's something about that just kind of takes out the angst of like traveling. You know what I'm saying? Like, driving got its own problems. The plane got its own problems. You know what I'm saying? The train got its own problems. But like, if I could teleport, easy.
You're the first person that's, you're doing it just to get out of the traffic, or like just
Right.
It's not even so you can like do something awesome. It's just so that you can like.
It's just so I can take out some of that anxiety. Like, we ain't got to be in no accidents, baby. Let's just teleport real quick. Man, ain't got to. Are you about to save somebody? Nah, I'm about to shake a move. I'm about to get out this jam, man.
That's hilarious. How about books? Favorite books that you've read? Maybe 1 or 2 that you could recommend to the community that you really felt over the last, however many months or years.
I think that I enjoyed Ta-Nehisi Coates, Between the World and Me. I thought that was a really good read. It's so many Black female writers that I enjoy, and I read intentionally because like, especially when I was getting my master's, man, like I just had to read so much work from old dead white men that I was just like, I have to go to the stark opposite of this, and I have to read some Black female writers. After every semester, I bought like a heap of Black female writers and just would just go. And that's always kind of like, because it's so rich in language. And I think about that in real life. Like, I love my Black female friends because they're just like, talking to them is just so, the language is rich, you know what I'm saying? It's so colorful. And and like when you get to talking about like writers and stuff like that, I think that comes across too. And one of the most current or contemporary, Eve Ewing's Electric Arches was a really nice read. I thought that was really enjoyable. But yeah, I love Black female authors as well, though.
No, I hear you, man. That's one of the reasons a brother's excited to see Kamala. I'm like,
Oh man,
that black,
listen.
that
Oh
black
my
female
goodness.
language is about to come in handy.
Man, listen, that energy be so needed, man. Like, oh, we didn't had too many dudes up in there, man. I was so excited. That's, man, yeah. I agree. I was her or Stacy. I needed that. You know what I'm saying? I needed that.
Yeah, we could probably go a whole nother hour talking about that.
Right.
Let me go to my next lightning round question. Let's throw it to favorite places that you might have vacationed. So maybe one or two spots that you really enjoyed that you've been able to travel to.
My wife and I do this thing where we take each other on trips for our birthday,
Mhm.
and like every one of those have been my favorites, man. Like, I remember she took me to Park City, Utah one time, and we always talk about that one, man. Like, where we stayed was just so nice, and the energy was so good, the people were so nice, and like, I I'm really into like working out and health and fitness and stuff like that, and it was kind of centered around that, and it was just a really nice place. And I can't speak for the Park City, Utah in totality, but I know that particular place, Red Mountain Resort or whatever it was a really nice place. But we also stayed in this uh, little boutique hotel in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico just has a, now I can't, the city of Puerto Rico is just like, I mean the city, I'm sorry, the city of San Juan is very beautiful. And I think just all of Puerto Rico, from what I could see, just felt very warm and like welcoming and just very nice people. Like, I end up accidentally leaving like an outfit at the place, and they mailed it to me. I ain't never seen that before, like it was just like, and I didn't even have to ask or nothing. And it was just a very beautiful place. Like, everywhere we went just felt very beautiful without trying, you know what I'm saying? So like, those are two places that really kind of stick out to me at the top of my head.
Got you. Well, give me, let's see, one more question about what you might have watched. I don't know if you're Netflix or HBO or what you stream. Maybe one or two things that you've watched recently that you have been really digging, and then I'll do my very very last question after that one.
I still can't stop thinking about Watchmen.
Okay.
Um, Watchmen was so good, man. Like, yeah, I don't know. Watchmen was really, really good to me. And then I think too, um, I would say it was something on Netflix I just recently was watching that I was really into. Man, I can't even remember right now. But I have been I have been watching Lovecraft as well. And that's been a very interesting ride.
I haven't seen any of them yet, so it's in my queue.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna speak no more further on it. It's just been an interesting ride. But yeah, man, and I think to I really enjoyed Euphoria on HBO. Like the cinematography on Euphoria, I don't know.
Mm,
It was amazing, and then just the performances were crazy. Um, and Insecure. Insecure is my like anytime that season drop, I'll be ready. I'll be ready. You know.
that's
So it seems like
man.
I feel like I'm seeing a lot of HBO shows, but I be moving around, you know. But like they have some really amazing programming over there, though.
Yeah, yeah, that's dope. Um, I've seen the Euphoria trailers, and I know that Zendaya always does her thing. So maybe now that you recommended, I might have to check
Hey
that.
man, it's a really really good show. Like they it's really good. Like just the way in which it's handled is really good.
Enough said. Enough said. All right, man. Well, the last thing I'm gonna ask is, how can we, kind of as a community, like actually help you in the work that you're doing and the things that you're interested in? I'm really grateful that you've, agreed to sit down and have a chat. But we also want to kind of tap you into this resource that we're calling community college, and the whole goal of it is to try to help us not just be educated together as a community, but be able to do life like together, and remove potholes and banana peels that a certain other community member has already stepped on, so that you can get to where you're trying to go faster. So how can we help accelerate what you're doing, bro?
Spread it. You know, like that's always my thing. Like, please just spread this, man. Cause like I think that's the best gift, you know, that I could receive from community is to make it broader. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think one of the things that you always hope for as an artist is like to be etched in stone. And I think the only way that happens is that a multitude of people know about you. You know, it's one thing to be, you know, how they say it was so many Michael Jordans that we just never knew about. That's
Mm.
cool. I want to be the Michael Jordan that you knew about, though. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, ain't nobody hanging their hat on that, bro. You know, like them dudes become Uncle Ricos. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I want people to know that I exist. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the best help I can get. Um, so if y'all could spread it, that would be great.
Hey man, we got you, bro. Well, again, I appreciate you for rocking with us. Uh, it's evening time in Chicago, so I'm about to get off of work and head home. But for everybody watching, a big salute to Harold Green and everything that he's doing. I will, when I post this, put all of your social and everything out there to let the community know where they can find you and where they can copy and paste, so that everybody else that they know can share with their friends and family as well. And man, I just appreciate the time, and I respect kind of where you're at right now, and in the journey, where you started from to get to where you're at has been
Yes,
inspiring
sir.
to listen to. And then the expectation that you're going to, be at a certain spot in the future, like continued growth,
Talk about
continued
it.
movement, one foot in front of the other, one day at a time, bro. So
Yes,
um,
sir.
big appreciation, much love to you and your family. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to each other real soon.
Yes, sir. Till next time, brother.
All right, we'll talk to you. Take care.
Have a good one.
Peace.
Peace.